Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
He's outside.
Hi.
They shut their picture off.
So would anyone care to check in while we're getting started?
We've been having a good time.
We've already checking in.
I don't know how to check in. What do you mean?
Oh, I don't know. Just tell me what's going on.
I found a cool new website. My cousin's been sending me recipes from a website called Short Girl Tall Order. And I made cauliflower chickpea tacos tonight that have like lime juice, and cilantro, and a bunch of seasonings. They're delicious. And then homemade guacamole. So if anyone's looking for some new recipes or another, you know, plant-based website, there are a lot of great recipes on it. I'll type it in the chat.
Short girl.
I made the cheesy potato cauliflower recipe and it was so good.
Nice.
It was posted on the network.
Oh yeah, that's Vicky's favorite.
Do you guys change the recipes when you see them, or do you always make them the way they're written?
I left out the oil.
Good. Okay, I like that. Because you can do that.
Absolutely.
I got rid of all the meat in my refrigerator.
Hooray!
Wow, yay!
And you replaced your eggs with avocado.
I did.
That picture was awesome.
That was cool. I'm trying. I found good homes for it. Who was it?
I made some really great beans.
How'd you do it?
It's called vegan Southern beans. And you know I'm a real big believer in Rancho Gordo beans. They're fresh, they don't take that long to cook. And it's just seasoning. You know, it's got no mirepoix. It's just you put them in the oven, in a Dutch oven, bake them in the oven for about an hour and 15 minutes, and then boil them on the stove for about 15. And
what kind of beans were those?
They were yellow-eyed Indian woman. So these are heirloom beans, and so they're not necessarily all the things that you recognize from the store. They have great recipes, but they're not vegan usually. I didn't find this recipe online, but I promised to post it on the Mighty whatever. What is it? Mighty Network?
Yep.
But it's the simplest thing rather than having to chop a bunch of things, and the flavors are really good. Even my partner in crime here was appreciative, and he's not always appreciative of my beans.
The reluctant vegan. They were very, very good. They were.
That's awesome.
What did you serve them with?
Cornbread and coleslaw.
I love that combo. How did you do your cornbread? How did you make your cornbread vegan?
Oh, I didn't make the cornbread vegan. I used buttermilk.
No, if you buy Fleischmann's corn muffin mix, the mix is vegan. Instead of an egg, use 3 tablespoons of aquafaba and use plant-based butter and plant-based milk, and they come up. I got them downstairs. I made them for vegetable soup the other night. They come out great, and they're all vegan.
Really?
Huh?
What was this mix you used?
The Fleischmann's cornbread mix. They're the only ones that is a vegan mix.
Wow. Okay, I'll try that, but I'm reluctant. In the South, cornbread is not sweet.
No, this is cornbread. You'll like it.
All right.
Slap me if you don't.
I'm believing it.
Yeah.
So for those of you who weren't with us for the Health Challenge Delaware, we've changed a couple things. We had a great 4 weeks and a great group and terrific mentors, and it was It was a very positive experience, certainly for me. And so a couple of things, some innovations, thanks to Karen Smith. We're using a so-called Mighty Networks as our own social media and support website. There's no Russian bots or fake news on there, at least nothing, unless we're deluding ourselves with the posts. But so anyway, hopefully that'll be a nice, safe place to support each other and share recipes and so forth. And the other thing we started doing was these breakout rooms, and we're going to do that again today. So a reminder is when we do the breakout groups, make sure everybody gets a chance to speak. Try not to dominate the conversation too much. And also that goes for here too. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself so we don't have the background noise. But we want to hear everybody speak, ideally.
Can you mute?
So moving forward. So Be Well, for those of you who aren't familiar with Be Well, this is our monthly support group. And it's been running for a few years now, thanks to Karen. And we try to do some individualized goal setting. We just want to support each other in being as healthy as we possibly can. We want to share tips and tricks. And, you know, Karen and I and the rest of Progressive Health remain, you know, committed to supporting you in your health. But this is one extension of our practice, is to try to help people, you know, make those healthy choices. So here's our agenda for today. And we're going to, at 6:40, in just a minute or so, I'm going to get to a presentation on rest and sleep. And then Karen's going to get us moving a little bit. And then after that, Karen's going to have a presentation on movement. So throughout the 4 weeks of Health Challenge Delaware, we did just a little talking about sleep and about exercise or movement. And finally, we're going to get caught up and go a little deeper into those two very important topics. And then after that talk by Karen, we're going to have 20 minutes or so in our breakout rooms, which might mirror the breakout rooms we had in Health Challenge Delaware to some extent, with hopefully some of the same mentors present. And thank you all for joining again. You guys don't have to do this every month, but we're so grateful that you were able to join us, most of you. And then we'll wrap up by 8 o'clock, and then you can go see the election returns, or I would recommend go to bed. Don't stay up till 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning. So sign up for Be Well News. This is how you can be alerted. You got to get on the Be Well group on the Progressive Health website. It's called progressivehealthproject.com. I don't think we have that here, but progressivehealthproject.com. We could maybe put that in the chat. And then there's a particular page called Be Well, and that's where you can sign up. And it's pictured here, this Be Well News. And it's going to be virtual at least until mid-2021. So the first Tuesday of the month, and maybe beyond that, if this is what everybody prefers, certain advantages and disadvantages. We got a Cure Diabetes group starting Tuesdays, 5 to 6:30 p.m. starting November 10th. This is a unique opportunity. Nobody's doing anything like this in our region. And it's a must attend for people who, in my opinion, who have diabetes, and even people who have pre-diabetes, which is half of US adults. But you have to be in Pennsylvania or Delaware. And you don't have to be a Progressive Health patient, but you do have to see Karen once before the classes begin on a one-on-one basis. We've got a new weight loss thing starting up, a 10-week program for weight loss. It's going to be Zoom sessions. And I think it's going to be Karen and maybe myself, and that might be Monday evenings, but stay tuned on that one. And that's another reason to sign up for our Be Well News, because you'll hear about it there. So that's a little bit like Cure Diabetes, except devoted to weight loss. 10 weeks instead of 8 weeks. So as far as medication safety, we did have someone do so healthy with her diet that she ended up in the hospital because she lowered her blood pressure too much. Someone from the Be Well group. So beware. And especially if you're taking a lot of these drugs, blood pressure drugs or diabetes drugs, that you could lower your numbers too much. So keep your doctor or your provider informed. So keep in mind also, you can reach out to us. Many of you have our email, but if you don't have it, there it is. So sleep, we're going to talk about sleep here. There's been a lot of research on sleep, and we're going to just scratch the surface of some of this fascinating area of research. But you might occasionally see headlines about this, that the ideal amount of sleep is 7 to 8 hours. And that's on the basis of some studies like this. These are population studies that look at things like survival. In this case, it was relative risk of type 2 diabetes. So people who get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night have the lowest rates of diabetes. They have the lowest rates of early death. They have the lowest rates of Alzheimer's disease. So that's the number you're shooting for, is 7 to 8 hours. And you say, well, I get 5 to 6 and I'm fine with that. Well, you can say that, but we can measure higher rates of diabetes and heart attacks and dementia as a result of you getting that 5 to 6 hours. So you really are ideally served. There's basically not a human being on the planet who wouldn't be ideally served by getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. We're all, apparently, according to the research, we are all wired up to need that much sleep. And so that was a large population study, but then there's research on the micro level looking at an individual, lots of different research looking at just like what does one poor night of sleep do to one person? And we know all sorts of bad things. It increases insulin resistance. So you're more diabetic the next day if you've only gotten 4 hours of sleep than if you got 8. You're more susceptible to infection. You get less of an immune boost to a tetanus shot if you got 4 hours of sleep versus if you got 8 hours of sleep. This has all been measured. So here's a brief video from a famous author named Matthew Walker. I think it's five or so minutes.
My name is Matthew Walker. I am a professor of neuroscience and psychology at the University of California, Berkeley, and I am the author of the book, Why We Sleep. We certainly know that a lack of sleep will actually prevent your brain from being able to initially make new memories. So it's almost as though without sleep, the memory inbox of the brain shuts down and you can't commit new experiences to memory. So those new incoming informational emails are just bounced and you end up feeling as though you're amnesic. You can't essentially make and create those new memories. We also know that a lack of sleep will lead to an increased development of a toxic protein in the brain that is called beta amyloid. And that is associated with Alzheimer's disease, because it is during deep sleep at night when a sewage system within the brain actually kicks into high gear and it starts to wash away this toxic protein, beta amyloid. So if you're not getting enough sleep each and every night, more of that Alzheimer's related protein will build up. The more protein that builds up, the greater your risk of going on to develop dementia in later life. What are the effects of sleep deprivation on the body? Well, there are many different effects. Firstly, we know that sleep deprivation affects the reproductive system. We know that men who are sleeping just 5 to 6 hours a night have a level of testosterone which is that of someone 10 years their senior. So a lack of sleep will age you by almost a decade in terms of that aspect of virility and wellness. We also know that a lack of sleep impacts your immune system. So after just one night of 4 to 5 hours of sleep, there is a 70% reduction in critical anti-cancer fighting immune cells called natural killer cells. And that's the reason that we know that short sleep duration predicts your risk for developing numerous forms of cancer. And that list currently includes cancer of the bowel, cancer of the prostate, as well as cancer of the breast. In fact, the link between a lack of sleep and cancer is now so strong that recently the World Health Organization decided to classify any form of nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen. So in other words, jobs that may induce cancer because of a disruption of your sleep-wake rhythms. We also know that a lack of sleep impacts your cardiovascular system, because it is during deep sleep at night that you receive this most wonderful form of effectively blood pressure medication. Your heart rate drops, your blood pressure goes down. If you're not getting sufficient sleep, you're not getting that reboot of the cardiovascular system. So your blood pressure rises. You have, if you're getting 6 hours of sleep or less, a 200% increased risk of having a fatal heart attack or a stroke in your lifetime. There is a global experiment that is performed on 1.6 billion people twice a year, and it's called daylight savings time. And we know that in the spring, when we lose 1 hour of sleep, we see a subsequent 24% increase in heart attacks the following day. Another question perhaps is, what is the recycle rate of a human being? How long can we actually last without sleep before we start to see declines in your brain function or even impairments within your body? And the answer seems to be about 16 hours of wakefulness. Once you get past 16 hours of being awake, that's when we start to see mental deterioration and physiological deterioration in the body. We know that after you've been awake for 19 or 20 hours, your mental capacity is so impaired that you would be as deficient as someone who is legally drunk behind the wheel of a car. So if you were to ask me what is the recycle rate of a human being, it does seem to be about 16 hours, and we need about 8 hours of sleep to repair the damage of wakefulness. Wakefulness essentially is low-level brain damage.
Wakefulness is low-level brain damage. What do you think of that? So signs that you're not sleeping. By the way, what I'll ask you to do in the chat is, if you have found some great approaches to improving your sleep, solving that insomnia problem or that early waking problem, or that breathing at night or snoring problem, put them in the chat, please, and we will review them in a few minutes. So put in the chat any insights you've gotten into ways of sleeping better. So if you're someone who snores, or you're mouth breathing, or you wake, these are all signs that you're not sleeping adequately. You're waking up unrefreshed, waking up to urinate. You know, oftentimes people say, I wake up to urinate. It's really that you woke up and then you realize you had to urinate, but it's not necessarily the need to urinate that woke you up. Waking with a headache is often a very suspicious sign for sleep apnea. Grinding or clenching your teeth when asleep, having a dry mouth in the morning, experiencing the daytime sleepiness or fragmented sleep. And actually, a lot of these things are captured in the so-called Epworth sleepiness scale. And what I'll ask you to do is go ahead and work through this yourself. It's only, about 8 questions. And so the question is, when you're sitting and reading, would you never doze? If so, put down a 0. Or is there a high chance of dozing? Would you put that, in which case put down a 3? And you could just write this down, or just add it up mentally. But I'll give you a couple minutes to calculate your own Epworth sleepiness scale. And you could put your score in the chat if you like. I'll give you another 30 seconds. So this is a sleep scale that's used in the medical community, and sleep doctors will often calculate your Epworth sleepiness scale. It's not a surefire determination of whether you have sleep apnea, but there's some degree of correlation. What kind of sleep did people? What kind of numbers did everybody get on that one? Did anybody get high levels of disturbed sleep?
I'm up there, and I've always had bouts with sleep apnea.
Bouts of sleep apnea. And it kind of goes without saying, but if you think you're someone who might have sleep apnea and you haven't had adequate medical attention on that, I would recommend it.
No, I've had it. I had it one time years ago, and it was after I had knee surgery, and my surgeon said that I was catching my breath very often. So I went and got a sleep test. The problem I had, I slept no better with the apparatus. I had trouble adapting to the apparatus.
Yeah.
So I kind of let it go. And then down the road, I caught hell again for not doing it. I got another sleep test, and it was kind of the same thing. The apparatus disturbs me as much as anything.
Yeah. And in medicine, often we're guilty of having a knee-jerk allopathic sort of solution to everything. And so we've kind of equated sleep apnea with the CPAP machine, continuous positive airway pressure, the apparatus, as you're describing, Larry. And with some good reason, because it can be very effective for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. And there are other solutions, and that's something we'll talk more about. Hopefully everybody, most of you are low on that daytime sleepiness scale. Let's get to, what's that?
I have a comment. I have a comment. I'm struggling with environmental allergies. And so that gets all mixed up with my sleep sometimes. So I'm having a hard time teasing those two things apart.
Mm-hmm. Affecting your airway, that can be a frustration. I assume you're
a stuffy nose,
yeah.
you know.
The nasal rinses, the nasal steroids can be helpful. Guaifenesin sometimes. Changing the air filters in your air conditioner, your heater, your furnace.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe seeing an allergist.
Yeah, all of the above I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I have an appointment with the allergist tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
So great, thank you.
So we're gonna get the solutions here. And so some of those suggestions are stuff that you've probably heard much of this before, but maybe not all of it. Sleep and wake up at the same time every day. A lot of this is advice that you hear, but most people don't actually ever try it. And if you really did make a concerted effort to try to do some of these things, you might really find that it pays dividends. Really getting those gadgets out of the bedroom and keeping it as dark as possible. An eye patch can be helpful. Cool temperature is helpful. Really try not to lie in bed awake. There's a form of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI. And this is one of the primary medical answers to insomnia. And one of the key aspect of CBTI is don't lie in bed awake. And you're only allowed to lie in bed a small number of hours per night, and you gradually are allowed to increase that. And so you really have to train your body to associate that bed with sleep. And I think that another thing is people say don't have caffeine after 2. I think it's best to if you're having a problem with insomnia, just go caffeine free, completely caffeine free. And that's even free of decaf coffee. Decaf coffee has a decent amount of caffeine, and it can be very disruptive. Our handout for sleep hygiene, sleep health at Progressive Health, we have 17 items on it. And so some of these things are a little more obscure and people haven't heard of. Things like really trying to see the sunlight in the daytime and really filtering out that blue light at night. I wear glasses that are specifically designed to filter out the blue light once we hit bedtime. And it really does help improve the sleepiness. And then things like keeping the room cool, avoid all sleeping pills. So I would be deficient here if I didn't mention the importance of just don't do the sleeping pill thing. We really don't have a sleeping pill that actually improves the quality of sleep, unfortunately. Melatonin is sort of a possible exception, but it really mainly works to reorient our circadian clock, especially when you're traveling, which few of us are doing nowadays. Exercise seems to be really important, being outside in the sunlight, seeing the blue sky, seeing the green, blue and green seems to have particular effects on our bodies and help orient our bodies to when is daytime and when should I be going to sleep later in the day. Hydrating well through the afternoon and then stopping hydration at night. And if you are snoring, having that daytime sleepiness, really pursuing with a good sleep doctor. I'm going to share an out of the box sleep doctor here in a couple minutes. There's that Why We Sleep book that Dr. Walker wrote. It's really good on the why we sleep, but it's not as good on how can we sleep better. This just doesn't seem to be as much compelling research. There's a lot of interesting research on all the reasons why you want to get a good night's sleep. There's a neat app called Snore Lab, which is free and can identify how much you're snoring and how restless were you at night. Good old earplugs are super helpful. The eye patch that this young lady is wearing can really help you stay asleep. Here's Dr. Ryan Robinson. He spoke at a previous Be Well program. He's really outside the box. He's even sort of nationally recognized for his expertise in sleep, and he does some outside of the box things. He's a dentist, and he's really focused on that airway, but he has a lot more tricks up his sleeve than most sleep doctors and most internal medicine or family medicine doctors have. So if you've struggled with your sleep, if your sleep is not ideal, I would recommend checking in with this guy, because he really is, in my opinion, the regional expert. Very nice guy too. So what is your plan to improve your own sleep? I think most of us could probably improve our sleep. So we're going to pause there. I want to go back and just review what people might have typed in the chat. So let me jump over to the chat. So let's see. As far as scores, most people are in the low range, but a few of us shared 12, a 13 in there,
Yeah.
an 8, a 9, 10, 6, 10. So some of these are getting awfully high. And then looking at people's tips. Jay shares, I had a cardiologist to my list, added a cardiologist to my list of experts. He had me do an at-home sleep test. Insurance does not cover the cost, but was only $95 waiting for results. Colleen shared that meditation helps. Thank you, Colleen. Like,
Yes.
mindfulness meditation is a wonderful sleep aid. I feel like a zombie since daylight savings time Sunday. My kids are getting up at 4:15 a.m. Oh no. So other people have read the book and value it. There's our link to Mighty Networks. And then finishing out our list of comments. Apologies if I didn't cover yours, just in the interest of time. Type and brightness of lights in your eyes that you get exposed to in the morning and in the evening will make a difference in your ability to fall asleep at night. Shares the iPad. Rebecca, Pike Creek Dental is an amazing sleep center. Thank you for sharing that. Let's add that to the list. I take my allergy medicine before bed to help me sleep. So be careful, Rebecca, because that allergy medicine is probably something like, it's an antihistamine, usually like a Benadryl. And those drugs have a half-life of like 11 hours. So they're really kicking in when you're getting up the next morning. So some people seem to metabolize them quicker and report that it helps them. But I'm persuaded by the research that seems to say that if, in a randomized placebo-controlled setting, people do better without taking that pill. They function better the next day without taking the pill. So I think my personal belief is that sleeping pills solve the problem of you're not lying awake, stressed out that you're not sleeping. It conks you out. but it does not help you get better rested in general. And some sleeping pills have been found to correlate pretty significantly with higher death rate. Ambien is on that list, and some of the benzodiazepines, the sedatives like Valium. So Ryan Robinson is incredible. You can watch his video from September 2nd. Thanks for sharing that, Natalie. Try putting tape on your mouth when you sleep, says Karen Smith, to try to prevent you from mouth breathing. A lot of very smart people do that, so it must be a good thing to do.
What?
It's worth a try. Calm app. Oh yeah, I've had a lot of people report.
That's a far out suggestion.
What's
no,
that?
It's a lot of us breathe through our mouths all day long and don't realize it. And at night, like I went to Dr. Robinson after the Be Well where he spoke, and started putting tape on my mouth when I go to sleep, because it was evident that I was most likely, you know, breathing through my mouth, and that was obstructing my airway because my tongue would fall back like as I was sleeping. And not breathing when you're sleeping or not breathing effectively can cause interrupted sleep, fragmented sleep. So yeah, there's a great book, Breath, that I read first and recommends doing that as well. So just a little
what kind of tape?
I just use like a little piece. I just use a little piece of medical tape. I mean, you don't have to tape like your whole mouth shut, just a little bit.
Little strip right across the lips, right here.
Yeah.
Okay. My sister had a dental device for sleep apnea, and she couldn't stand it. And her significant other was reading the book Breath, and now she tapes her mouth, and it seems to work real well.
Not for us claustrophobics.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just there's a couple of nods to some of the meditation apps, and Calm is another good one that helps a lot of people sleep. It's very soothing stories in there that just conk you out. So check out that Calm app. And then the other thing, apologies, I didn't realize that Dr. Robinson's practice is called Pike Creek Dental. So Pike Creek Dental is Dr. Robinson's practice. So that's the one.
He's got several, Dave.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like he owns Pike Creek Dental, but the Pain and Sleep Center is where you want to go if
Natalie,
sleep is your issue.
Okay. Natalie says, don't use duct tape. Yes, do not duct tape your mouth or nose. It can be fatal. And then
I was thinking duct tape.
Does weight loss help? Is weight loss help snoring? The answer is absolutely yes, it does. And CPAP, Judy McGee shares that CPAP equipment has improved so much. I just started a year ago. It was a huge variety of mask configurations. I couldn't use it 10 years ago, but very happy with it. And that is an experience. A lot of people say, I couldn't do CPAP, I gave up. But try again, try with a different kind of mask. They have kinds that just kind of go right here into the nose and then wrap around back. They have the nasal pillows that do that, just touch the nose. So a lot of people eventually get that breakthrough. And Headspace and 10% Happier are two other good apps. And with that, I will close the sleep section of our talks. I hope I didn't go too far over, Karen.
Oh, you're great, Dave. All right, let me. All right, so we're going to transition into talking about movement. And we're going to start by doing some movement. So you can, we're actually not going to do this video. Let me do this so you can see me. Can people see me a little bit better now? Actually, hold on.
Yeah, see you.
All right. So if you can stand up, go ahead and stand up now. Most of the movements that we're gonna do, you can also do sitting in your chair, and that's fine. But if you're able to stand, let's just stand up. Hold on, I have to cue Whitney Houston.
Oh, geez.
Hopefully you can hear a little bit of music too. All right, so we're just gonna start by doing some head rolls to the front. So don't go all the way around, just go side to side. Take some deep breaths. Relax your shoulders. All right, now go to the back. So, all right, one more. All right, now just shrug your shoulders up and relax. So you're breathing. Smile. All right, now some arm circles to the front first. And you can do whatever you want. So if you don't like this, dance to the music. All right, backwards. All right, now you're just gonna take a step to the side, kind of tap your other foot. You can put your arm up if you want.
Karen, I can't hear the music at all. Is there music playing?
Yeah, that's okay. Is that better? All right, now let's do some knee taps. All right, two more. All right, here's the fun part. We're gonna do some squats. And you're gonna start by doing them slow. So go down for 4 counts. 3, 4, and up for 4. All right, one more slow one. So down, 2, 3, 4, and up. All right, so now speed it up to 2, 1, 2, up, 2, down, up, 2, one more. All right, now do some single squats. Down, up, down. Nice job, everybody. 2 more. And the fun starts. All right, now I want you to squat and hold it. Keep holding. 3, 2, 1. Up. Take it out a little bit. And we're going to do that another time. So go down and hold. 3, 2, 1. Up. Take it out a bit. All right, one more. Down and hold. All right. 3, 2, 1. Nice job, everybody. So no one could hear the music?
No. No.
Darn it.
We lost Marilyn. She went down, but she hasn't come back up.
Is everybody okay?
Yes.
I only see it from the waist up. Is that what you want?
Yeah, hopefully that was good enough. You knew I was doing squats, right?
If I knew you were going to do squats, I wouldn't have done them this morning. Oh.
So what'd you think? How are people feeling after that? I see some smiling faces. Is anyone like, I regret that?
I didn't do all of it, but when I did the neck rolls, I heard a lot of cracking. That's not good, right?
No, I join you there. That's arthritis.
Oh, lovely.
Your neck cracks.
Yeah.
Karen, I love that exercise thing you did before with the doctor that did the started with squats, then did the whopping of the hands, then the circles.
Yeah, I'll
And
share that one later.
That's awesome for 4 minutes and then 3 times a day. It's amazingly good.
That's great, Larry.
Yeah, for that motion. I've had kind of shoulder and neck problems. I've been to physical therapy, deep laser therapy, and this seems to help just as much. So
awesome.
I like it for rainy days when you can't get outside.
Mm-hmm.
It's a quick energy boost.
Yeah, anyone feeling like a little more energized now?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll go back to sharing my screen. And any of you feel free to, chime in at any time, type in the chat box. There are certainly people on this call, like Colleen, who is way more of an expert in movement than I am. I would say that movement is like something I am super passionate about for what it's done in my life. Like, just like sometimes with the health challenge or on these calls, you hear about people giving testimonies on how, changing their diets has really transformed their life. I would say that's what movement has done for me. And so I'm hoping that you can all kind of tap into, and we can talk about in our small groups, like ways to find movement enjoyable, exciting, something to look forward to doing. There's a great book called The Joy of Movement that talks about it's just this beautiful love story of how movement, not so much like the benefits for lowering blood pressure and blood glucose, the things that most of us probably know, but how it builds community and makes us feel a lot better about ourselves. It's pretty awesome. So one thing that I really love, the science, the research on movement or plant-based nutrition or sleep is excellent. I also really think that it makes a whole lot of sense to just think about okay, what did humans do for most of the time that we've been on the planet? And we moved a whole lot. Our survival required us to be super active every day, in order to find food, hunt food, gather food, as opposed to today, where, especially now in, the environment of COVID, many of us might not even be driving in our car to the grocery store to walk around the grocery stores for groceries. We might be having them delivered. And so we're not using any energy at all to procure our food. A great deal of energy used to be spent in building our homes. And certainly we do home improvement projects, but way different when we can, again, get in our vehicle, drive to Home Depot or Lowe's and put the materials on a cart and wheel it to our vehicle. And also in terms of being social, sure, we might have lived in small communities or in tribes, but gathering in spaces and moving as tribes, just every day we were really active, and it really was what kept us, our survival, like I said, really depended on our ability to move. And now, right, especially again with COVID, we're not walking to people's homes, and maybe we didn't do that before, we might drive, but now, we're sitting in front of the computer for a large part of the day. Many of us are, at least. So I feel really strongly that movement equals living. And I think one of the coolest things about movement is that the research shows that even small increases in movement can make a big difference. So whereas with diet, we're often encouraging people to jump in and make really dramatic changes to diet, with movement, even small incremental shifts can make a big difference. And there's a lot of research that shows exercise helps you live longer. And the greatest increase in longevity occurs when people go from being sedentary to moving daily, even if it's just for 20 minutes a day, right? So it's not necessarily moving for hours or exercising intensely, just not being sedentary. So, you know, I'm not going to get into like what type of exercise you should do or for how long you should exercise. I feel really strongly that the best exercise is the one that you love doing. I mean, there's so many ways that we can move our bodies. And, you know, for it to be enjoyable is important for you to continue to do it and make it a daily habit. So Dean Ornish has a great book, Undo It. And this is a quote, you know, make it a play out, like have fun. Remember back when you were a kid and like would run around outside and playing games, like it was so fun to move your body. So when people say to me like, oh, I don't like exercise, or I've never liked to exercise, I'm like, really? Remember when you were like 6 years old, you didn't like running around? We all love to move. And again, so just walking adds years to your life. And a couple of cool studies. One was the Women's Health Study showed a 40% reduced risk of heart attack or stroke for women who walk just 15 minutes a day. So again, not saying like you have to go out, become a marathon runner. Walking significantly reduces mortality. Studies show up to like 30 to 40%. And so does running, and in less time. So the benefit of doing more intense exercise often is that you can achieve the same result for less time. So you might be able to see that same benefit in reduced mortality in 5 or 10 minutes of running a day, as opposed to, 20 minutes of walking. Excuse me. Now, I would say that another benefit of walking is that it comes with less risk. Like if you have a chronic disease, if you're not able to run, if running increases your risk of injury or something that's going to prevent you from moving more, stick with walking 100%. So just another way to show, and Dave, you can chime in anytime because I know you love the research on moving more and living longer, but seeing, as the amount of time that you exercises goes up, so do the years of your life. And one of the reasons that is that movement or exercise increases our telomeres, and telomeres are at the ends of our chromosomes and they regulate cellular aging. So as telomeres shorten, so does our lifespan. And there's a study, this was a lot of these studies I've pulled from that Undo It book by Dr. Dean Ornish. One showed that people who are highly active, which was defined as 30 to 40 minutes of jogging daily, 5 times a week, had a biological advantage of 9 years compared to people who are sedentary. So, adding 9 years to their life, and 7 years compared to those who were moderately active. And the cool thing, so these telomeres can lengthen like throughout life. Like you don't necessarily have to exercise from a young age. It's something that can be added in at any time and you can experience a benefit. And stress is something that reduces telomere length. So the really cool studies show that people who experience a lot of stress, one study was done on caregivers, women specifically, and that when they were consistently exercising in this study, it showed that exercise helped increase their telomere length, even though they were experiencing extreme stress as a caregiver. So the blue zones, we like to mention, in Be Well and in other programs at Progressive Health, because these are the populations in the world where people live the longest and super healthy lives. Like they have the highest quantities of people who are 100+ years, and this is what they look like. They are thriving, you know, into their 90s and to 100 and beyond. And one thing that they all have in common is that they're active. And it's not like they're going to the gym or doing CrossFit. Movement is just a natural part of their daily routine. And I like to point that out because we can start to think of movement that way in our own lives. You know, is there an opportunity to walk more instead of getting in a car, or ride a bike instead of getting in a car? Just making movement more of something that's built into our daily routine. So for me, this is like especially effective. Like, I know that my mental health is dependent on my daily movement, and it's something that I look forward to doing every day and never ever regret. Like, I know that I feel so much better when I move. And in terms of depression, anxiety, like, exercise absolutely is the best medicine. I don't know if anyone wants to argue that statement, but I feel really strongly that the research is quite clear, builds a really good case that exercise is a really effective way to prevent depression and also to treat it. So just 10 minutes a week of exercise is linked with increased happiness. Just 10 minutes a week can improve your mood. And those who work out just once or twice a week report feeling happier than people who never work out or never exercise. There's one study that pulled data from over 1 million men and women, and those with the lowest fitness were 76% more likely to be given a diagnosis of depression than those with the highest fitness level. Another really cool thing is that group exercising, being in a group, being with others, might be even more effective for elevating your mood. And that book that I mentioned, The Joy of Movement, really dives into this, like what we experience when we're moving together collectively, like in a dance class or in a weight training class, yoga, how beneficial that can be for building community, for boosting our mood. And this is my community. So for me, that is exactly what exercise did. Like at a time in my life when I was feeling really, really down and depressed and, you know, thinking something was wrong, meeting this amazing group of women to run with and then their families. And for me, it's just been a way to connect with people no matter where I live, like joining a group of people who likes to run or swim or walk or whatever the exercise might be, has always been a way for me to build amazing relationships. And yeah, another huge benefit. So I'm like Dave, like really just scratching the surface on the benefits of movement. There's so many, and I feel like each of these could be a whole session, but definitely helps reduce memory loss, improve cognitive function at any age. So you can start, you know, moving your body in your 60s or 70s or 80s and see benefits in cognitive function. And one thing I often hear is like, I just don't want to do it. Yeah, Karen, I know that exercise is good, moving my body is good, but I don't want to. So I want to spend just a little bit of time now hearing from you, like what are things that get in your way? Or if you are someone who loves to exercise, like what is it that gets you to do it? Go ahead and type in the chat, or if you want to unmute, go for it.
Karen?
Yes.
I do a Zoom class with Pilates, and I love it. If I have an appointment, I'm committed to a group of people then I'm there reliably. So I have something every day that I commit to physically.
That's awesome.
Karen, I do also, after I was diagnosed with osteoporosis, I am motivated by telling myself that exercise and movement is the largest pill of the day for me to treat osteoporosis, in addition to my diet. So I know I have to do it for the rest of my life. So whether it's walking or doing weights or doing Tai Chi, it's the largest pill of the day that I have to take. So that's how I motivate myself in my thought process.
Yeah, so it's something you're looking forward to, right?
Yes.
Like there's a positive outcome
Yes.
from doing it.
Yes, yes.
Anyone else?
Karen, I'm an avid cyclist and it doesn't take me much to get on the bike, but I hate going to the gym. And during COVID, I've tried to do weight training and resistant bands and stuff by myself. I can't get motivated. So for me, what I've done now is I've reconnected with my personal trainer. And for me to get out there to do the weights and the other things for my bones that I absolutely need, I need to be accountable to someone. And hooking up with a personal trainer is the best way for me to do that. So that's where I am today.
Great. Anybody else?
So we've got some in the chat, Karen. Jay shared that Planet Fitness is $10 a month membership, which is quite affordable. Bernice shared that strength training also strengthens bones if you're unable to perform a weight-bearing exercise like walking or running. And Linda shared walking or biking is also good for the environment. So one great way to work the movement into your day is to work it into your commute. And far too few of us do that. And that partially speaks to how bikeable, walkable our communities are. Unfortunately, not very. But it is a very important point that there's probably more of our trips we could take by bike with a backpack on over to the Wawa or the grocery store rather than drive. And then having a dog is a great way because it just forces you to get outside. So it's kind of like having that friend who's constantly lobbying to go outside. Probably the best health aspect of a dog I've got to figure is their unwillingness to take no for an answer as far as exercise. And just going out in the yard and keeping active, staying on your feet. Hey, at least you're not sitting. And that's another side to movement is being sedentary and sitting. I encourage folks to rig up a standing desk so that all these hours we spend on Zoom are not spent sedentary, but are spent at least standing up, which is what I'm doing right now. And it's through just cheap stuff. I got boxes piled on top of each other at just the right height.
Awesome. So if you're someone that doesn't love to exercise and you're associating like, oh, I don't want to for whatever reason it might be, I really encourage you to change your mindset because you're already, it's going to be so much harder to do it when you're telling yourself that you don't like it and you don't want to. And trying to focus on a positive outcome. Like, has anyone ever done, like Gail, when you might not want to go to the gym, and once you're done, how do you feel?
Fabulous.
Yeah, right? So like focusing on like that reward, like I promise you that the movement will always reward you, and it's so much more immediate than the food. Like you feel better as soon as you do it. And as some of you have said, like having a partner or making an appointment, committing to taking a class, like having a group can be really helpful for accountability, and it can also be super inspiring. Like that's what that group of women did for me. I never ever thought like, oh, I'm gonna run a marathon, and I met them and they were all doing these fantastic things, and I thought, sign me up. So you can definitely, you know, get out of your comfort zone a bit, and it's just a positive experience to have someone else like see them moving, want to do that for yourself and focus on that. Talked about, as Dave said, just sitting less, standing up, doing 30 seconds of squats, standing on one leg while you're stirring your oatmeal. Lots of different things you can do and maybe talk more about in your group. For diabetes specifically, walking for even just a couple of minutes after you eat can significantly reduce blood glucose. And then these are just some other workouts. So this is what Larry was talking about, the 4-minute workout, and I'll share all of these in the follow-up email. So this is a great workout in less than 4 minutes, little squat workout. I have a lot of people tell me that they love this. Leslie Sansone, walking from home, and some seated exercises too. All right, so just to reiterate, like you don't have to go from sedentary to running, walking, lifting, like for long periods of time. Like even small increments can certainly add up and actually reap pretty big rewards in terms of longevity. All right, so we're gonna break into our groups now, and you can choose whatever group you wanna go to. And hopefully you can work on setting one movement goal or a sleep-oriented goal, something to focus on that's specific, and share with your group. All right, so we'll meet back in 20 minutes. Let me stop sharing. Let's see how this goes. So we're gonna open up the breakout rooms here. All right. All right, so are people seeing, for everyone who's still with me, do you see an option to choose a breakout room to go to?
No.
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 How about this? I'm just gonna move you.
I see people's names, but how do you know which breakout room is fitness and which is sleep?
They're all the same. We're gonna talk where you go to. They'll all do the same. So I'm just gonna start assigning people. How about that?
I'm asleep. I need help with sleep, Karen.
Who said that?
Margaret.
Margaret. All right, tell me more.
Sleep. I need sleep help. I've never been a good sleeper, and I think it's getting worse as I age.
I need sleep help too. This is Linda.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me more, like, is it that you can't fall asleep? Do you wake up frequently?
Wake up 9 and 10 times a night.
But all of the above.
Yes, all of the above.
Everything. Yeah.
I'm with you guys. Same thing. This is Larry. Same thing.
Mind racing.
Yep.
So have you tried anything in the past?
I have tried melatonin. I don't see any difference. Tried melatonin. Try keeping the room cool.
Hold on one second.
But, yeah. And I have to sit up